Daniel Sports Central, we go over a March Madness game preview and prediction on the round of 64 matchup between the Nebraska Cornhuskers and the Texas A&M Aggies. Two teams that have had great seasons getting to this point. And you got two red-hot teams facing off here in the first round. Nebraska, 23 wins on the season. This team has won 7 of their past 9. Heading into the tournament, this is their first appearance in March Madness as well in 10 years. And they're taking on also another red-hot team, and that is Texas A&M. This team had a nice run in the SEC tournament. They're playing really well right now. I feel like you got two teams here that are pretty dangerous in that the winner of this game could definitely make a run in this year's tournament. So with that, we'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Let's get started with their team trends. Nebraska lost to Illinois 87-98 in the Big Ten tournament. That was in the semifinals. Nebraska got up to 23 wins this season. And despite losing to Illinois, this team once again really played well later on in this season, especially in February. This team won pretty much every game. Their only regular season loss past February 7th was against Ohio State on the road. Otherwise, this team has won 7-9 once again. If you look at Texas A&M, they lost to Florida 90-95 in the SEC semifinals as well. So both teams got to the semifinals of their respective tournaments. And this is a really interesting draw for both teams. I mean, once again, you got two teams that have really played well later on in this season. Two teams that are also really strong on both sides of the ball. Two complete teams here. And along with the storylines that go along with it as well, with the obviously athletic director of Nebraska going to Texas A&M in recent time. Pretty interesting matchup given all the storylines and everything happening here. But tip-off is 6:50 p.m. Eastern on Friday, and it's going to be in Memphis. And the spread's going Nebraska by 1.5 here, so the Cornhuskers a slight favorite. BPI disagrees with this, going with Texas A&M 50.4%. Pretty much as close as it gets. This is one of those tournament games that really is a coin toss. It could absolutely go either way. I feel like with the other 8-9 matchups, you kind of can lean one way or another. I feel like most lean towards one way, but this is the one game that really I just feel like could go either way here. Over under 146.5. And well, yeah, once again, BPI going with A&M. You look at the South region here. Houston, it appears, would face the winner of this matchup unless a major upset happens there with Longwood. But Houston would take on the winner of this game. And I will say this as well, given the fact of how both these teams have played later on, wouldn't be surprised if one of these two teams, whoever wins this, gave Houston a run for sure. Your stat comparison, Nebraska's 77 points a game, Texas A&M 75. Two pretty similar teams here in the way that they score and defend. You got two teams that are really strong on both sides. Nebraska 2-4 against the top 25. Texas A&M is 3-6. And some notable games, Nebraska actually beat Purdue by 16. One of the 1 seeds in this tournament, took care of them. That was a really impressive performance there. They lost Illinois twice, split the series against Wisconsin and Northwestern. And something that was very notable was their dominance over Indiana this season. Swept them in the regular season and were dominant against them in the Big Ten tournament. So they had 3 wins over the Hoosiers this season. As for Texas A&M, lost to Houston by 4, so that could set up a rematch if the Aggies win this game with Houston. And that's obviously a game that was competitive in the regular season. Split the series against Tennessee and Kentucky along with Florida, and they lost to Auburn by 11. Your key points for this one, Nebraska 23-10. This team once again red hot. They've won 7 of their last 9. They also haven't had a very strong schedule down the stretch here. I mean, so that's also, but it's obviously important to win those games later on when the pressure starts to get higher. And so that shows that Nebraska can play well in pressure, and that's something you got to look for. You got Keisei Tominaga. This guy is an incredible player who's really, I mean, when he gets hot, this is a guy to really keep an eye on because he can just, he can turn a game into a blowout within moments if he starts to hit some shots. So keep an eye on him. And obviously for Nebraska seeking their first ever win in March Madness, well, that might not be obvious to some. That might be a surprise, but Nebraska hasn't been in the tournament in 10 years. That's why this team is kind of an underdog in the way. They haven't had a lot of success, obviously, in basketball. So, looking for their first win in the March Madness tournament. And no better way for it to be against a Texas A&M team that has been extremely talented and very impressive this season as well. Texas A&M was cold in February. February was tough for the Aggies. It was definitely better for Nebraska, but since it's been March, once again, the Aggies have really played well. Their one loss in March so far being against Florida a few days ago. But this would be their first March Madness win since 2018. Texas A&M has also made some nice runs into the Sweet 16 in recent time. But with that, let's get the prediction here for Nebraska and Texas A&M coming up here in the first round of action. Once again, this is really one of those matchups that is basically a coin toss. Could absolutely go either way, but I'm leaning towards Nebraska to win this game 78-73. Really went back and forth on this one. I feel like Texas A&M is a team that's probably more physical than Nebraska is, which could cause an issue for Nebraska. But at the same time, as long as the Huskers hit their shots in case it gets hot, I feel like Nebraska is going to be a pretty tough team to stop here. And based on the way this team played against Indiana in the Big Ten tournament, that was a huge, a very impressive win there, and that really shows the level that this Nebraska team can play at. And I feel like we see that, maybe not to that extent, but we at least see that in this matchup. And I mean, Texas A&M has also been, you got to give them attention too because of how well they've been playing. But I'm leaning Nebraska. I feel like the Huskers find a way to win this game. I'm going 55% towards the Huskers, taking the over as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a higher scoring game and Nebraska to cover the spread in the end. But let me know your thoughts and comments below on this matchup. Definitely a game that could, once again, definitely go either way. And considering how hot both teams are, wouldn't be surprised one bit if we saw one of these teams in the Sweet 16. But with that, appreciate you guys watching as always. My name's Evan. This is All Sports Central. Stay tuned for more. We'll catch you on the next one.